It's important for applicants when they're applying to think carefully about all the categories. We know the application is long, right? We read the applications too. We'll share one caveat that we notice each year is those who are able to differentiate the healthcare experience clearly from the personal care experience, which is really the more hands on medical based experience that we're looking for.
Thank you so much for agreeing to chat about PA things. And it's timely that CASP is opening. I would love to hear a little bit of your background and how you ended up becoming a PA.
So I can share with you that actually starting at the age of 7, I had a outpatient surgery, which was actually painful. And so when I had to have a repeated outpatient surgery, my parents took me to a different facility and it was a very different experience. And everything from the personalized interactions to even being given a gown that was pediatrics based, there were a number of details that really stood out to me, but particularly the compassion. And as a 7-year-old, really remember that. And so that's really what started my interest in medicine. And then when I was actually, it wasn't until I was a senior in college at San Diego, I learned about the PA profession and the roots that it had also in the military. And so I was able to shadow some flight surgeons
Oh,
and some of
cool.
the local bases. And that was very helpful as well. Confirmed it's a really exciting path.
Yeah. I'm very interested, and I'm sure we'll get into it, and how the profession and PA education has changed over time.
Yes.
I went to Augusta University, which had a program fairly early, and had been around for a while. And even when PA education was a bachelor's degree and then became a master's. So thinking back on your pre-PA journey and what you had to do to get into PA school, what did that look like and how is it a little bit different now?
You're right. It was really different. When I learned about how intensive PA programs were, that it was based on a medical model and it was very condensed, but it was based on that same training that physicians had. In fact, it was originally formulated from a fast track training program that was used during the war, World War II, when they had to be able to expedite the training of physicians. I thought that is so much. I said it makes sense that somebody would be earning a master's degree.
Yeah.
So I decided at that time, and this was over 25 years ago, to look specifically at master's programs.
Okay.
I was surprised to find that they were all outside of California at that time.
Yeah.
And that meant applying out of state. And that was exciting. And so actually I got into Emory, which is in
Yeah.
also Baylor, which is in Houston. And they were also offering masters at some older programs in the country. And I ultimately chose to go to Northeastern University
Okay.
in Boston, which is a 24-month program, actually, which is in the program I'm in now as a faculty member. Northeastern was one of the first PA programs in the country that was started. It's not directly connected to a medical school, but rather collaborates with community partners. And that's also the same model that our program is using. I left the state because I knew the program would be so intense, and I thought I might as well be earning a master's degree. And of course,
It sounds like a
now
great decision.
it's joyful to be able to share with applicants. It's fantastic. You don't need to travel out of state to earn your master's degree because
Yeah.
that's where the profession is at.
No, that's awesome. With seeing how PA education has progressed and changed, where do you see the profession heading in the next few years? 25 years from now, where do you think we'll be?
Think we have a lot of exciting times upcoming. There is a lot of discussion, for instance, within the profession, the doctor programs that are available. They're much more readily available than before. That's an exciting discussion. And it's very interesting to me because over the years, I had heard there were many discussions about the title changes as well. So to actually be at that stage now is really exciting. And I really think that's going to bring us quite a lot of more impact.
Different changes. Thinking about your career as a PA, what areas have you worked in? What has been your favorite and least favorite? What have you learned through your experience being a PA clinically?
I would say that the journey is a testimony to the fact that lateral mobility is possible. I started working in a rural health clinic in Texas. And then that was actually connected to an ER. So there was ER coverage with it. I was the only female provider in town. So that was also an interesting role for people to actually be able to have
Interesting.
access if they wanted to see a female provider. And then actually I moved to Pennsylvania and was moved directly to an inpatient psychiatric PA position. So that was really different. Shifting to another state, I was able to learn that each state has its own regulations about the PA profession. So really learned a lot ahead of time before I made the move in terms of what would be necessary. But it was exciting to be able to do that. And then from there, I shifted into a position in an inpatient physical rehabilitation center hospital. It had an outpatient center with it as well. So that was a different kind of work, working with the people who had strokes or had a hip replacement, but just were too weak to be able to go home or be discharged to a SNF and could withstand very intensive therapy 5 or 6 days a week. So that was an interesting role. And then after that, I moved to Southern California. So that's the third state I practiced in. And then for the last 16 years or so, I've been affiliated with a urgent care and patient medicine clinic chain. And that's been interesting too to see how even within one company, different satellite clinics can really have different personalities. So learning to work with everyone at different clinics is also
Interesting. You're a very interesting PA. I'm a boring PA. I'm 9 years in and I've only ever done the same thing and don't really have any plans on changing.
I think if you really know what you want to do and you love what you're already doing in that
Yeah.
field, then why not? So I'm happy to share that over 25 years as a PA, I have not had to accrue additional required formal education. So it
Yeah.
really is true that the PA program training is enough if one chooses. At the same time, I'm also thrilled that there are these additional pathways for our students and other students to choose if they want fellowships,
Yeah.
residencies. Some of our students have pursued that path. So I think that's really the best of both worlds,
More
right?
options. Yeah, no, it's true. And even though I have stayed in dermatology, I have always liked the assurance that if we have to move or if something happens, I feel confident that the skills I've learned will translate into other areas of medicine and be valuable. And there are areas that I see even in the future, like maybe I will explore that one day and have other interests once you find that home base that is is good and what you enjoy. I think a lot of PAs see in my class, some of them switched around a little bit at the beginning, but have found what they like and stayed there.
I think another benefit of the growth that we've had in the PA profession over the years has been the additional communities that have been built up. So, right, with the huge expansion, it's been interesting to see how APA has really expanded over the years, but also all the subsequent constituent groups as well, right? So, somebody knows that dermatology is for them or that ER is for them. There's also specialty organizations and close networking
Very good.
Unity. I always encourage students and sometimes pre-PAs as well, if they know that they're really keen on a specialty, they may want to look into the specialty organizations. Sometimes they have special rates for students or even people who are pre-PAs, and that can be really powerful. That's actually where, for instance, the emergency medicine PA group is actually where I found some fantastic information before I moved from Massachusetts to Texas to take on this partial ER role. So I joined a specialty group and learned what was involved. There was some working that was very helpful. And then I also joined the state constituent group. So really a big believer that's really important
Yeah.
given all the strides that we've had. And that's what enabled me to be successful in shifting gears because the requirements are different state to state. Wasn't caught off guard.
Very much. And that's what Texas has a great society, and so does California. Ours in Georgia is very good as well. And if some students like, I can't find it. I don't know what if we have one. They just may not be very active. A lot of states are trying and could probably use help from the students. Help with them in those things. There's lots of opportunity there. How was your switch into education? Is that something you always saw yourself getting involved with as far as academics?
It's an interesting question because when I decided to pursue the master's degree, I also realized that there were other avenues that might be helpful. That might be another reason to go ahead and take that. At that time, it's a leap. I thought about that early on. Our program here at California Baptist University welcomed its first cohort in the fall of 2016. And that's when I joined. And so it's really been fantastic to be here. It's actually, I live and work here in Riverside. I've been raising my family with my husband here. I'm really invested in the community. So it's been exciting to also be part of the PA program here in our community.
Yeah.
That's been a good fit. I will also say it's exciting to see the other ways that PAs can be involved clinically. For instance, in the occupational medicine company that I work for, over time, they've been bought out a few times, but they have also employed PAs in Texas who are consultants for the EHR.
Interesting.
Yes, it's an informatics PA position, which
Cool.
is not something that would first come to mind when we think about PAs, but they have a vital role not only in navigating the EHR, but understanding what kind of crucial documentation is needed. So it's really been interesting to me that some companies are also thinking outside the box in terms
Yeah.
of how PAs can be utilized. And we see more leadership positions, administrative positions in pharmaceutical companies. I'm pursuing my doctorate currently.
Seems like there's lots of doors opening for PAs. And I think just from what I see with applicants and students and fellow PAs, in generally, PAs tend to be go getters and some of the people who are willing to try some new stuff and take things on. And so I've seen PAs also moving into leadership in pharmaceutical companies and like medical science liaison roles where previously we would only really ever see pharmacists doing that. And there are some, like you said, like really cool leadership research opportunities coming up. It seems like for PAs, telehealth is becoming
Yes,
much
excellent point.
more of a big deal. So I think for these upcoming PAs, there's going to be so much opportunity and cool things that they may get to get involved with and try
Right.
out.
Exciting times. It doesn't mean that when you apply to PA school or even when you graduate that you necessarily have to have a path. That's part of the beauty of it, right? As these additional positions have been evolving over time, and because the lateral mobility is already there anyways.
So, in your experience, both as a clinical PA and then in academic, what are some things that make a student successful in PA school? What do you see students struggling with, or maybe coming in and not being quite prepared enough for when it comes to actual PA school?
I think it's hard for anyone to be completely prepared for PA school. No matter how academically gifted a person is, there's still going to be an academic challenge. And part of that is just because of the nature, the condensed nature of the program, no matter where someone goes, right? No matter the length of the program. So I think that just being flexible, as I know that you've emphasized before, is truly part of the key. In other words, having a mindset early on that I'm going to be needing to learn new skills. So, what worked for me as an undergraduate or even as a non traditional student taking night class, you can count on the fact that you're going to have to shift gears and re engineer yourself in
Yeah.
terms of study skills. But the good news is that you're not alone. And so that's where the community, your cohort that you're with, becomes really vital
Yeah.
because they are the ones who are undergoing that same journey with you.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to explain to someone ahead of time exactly what they're getting into, but they tend to learn fairly quickly that there's high expectations and it's just different. It's different than a full-time job. It's different than undergrad. It's just a lot. When you're looking at an applicant for a PA school, like a pre-PA student who's applying, what makes someone stand out or makes you feel more confident that they have what it takes to be a successful PA student and a great PA?
Honestly, it's many components. And so, even if we're reviewing the applications initially, we know when we're looking at the applications, that's not really the whole picture. We know that we're going to have an interview to clarify some of the personality characteristics that will be vital. One of those that comes to mind that was actually best summarized by one of our current work classmates is one of respect, realizing that when instructors are providing information or a program is sharing information, it's really coming from a point of experience, even though maybe in the moment, some of the material or methods may not be initially apparent. It's because it's being shared from a perspective. We're all PAs and we've all been in your shoes. And sometimes it takes that understanding or realization that maybe right now it's not completely apparent how this could be beneficial to me. But just taking that bit of trust and knowing we've been down your path, we're right there with you. Our goal, it's your goal for you to be a PA. That certainly is really, really a vital component.
So is that so hard to tell from someone's application? And even if like interviews are just short snapshot of who someone is, it's so tough when I've been helping with my program's interviews. It almost comes down to very small things. A small statement or something can be that one little red flag that makes me go, I just don't know if you're ready compared to somebody else because everybody, I feel like at this point, these students work so hard and they're so impressive. I don't think I would have gotten in when I applied. Looking back, I would have had to do a lot more. Are there any major red flags that you see either on applications or in interviews or personal statements that just make you go, "Oh, probably not the best fit for us"?
There can be. We have, and I think this is the case for all programs, such a large not applying that honestly, by the time that we look at the qualified pool, that's less likely to be an issue. I do think it's important for applicants when they're applying to think carefully about all the categories. We know the application is long, right? We read the applications too. We'll share one caveat that we notice each year is those who are able to differentiate the healthcare experience clearly from the personal care experience, which is really the more hands on medical based experience that we're looking for. That is very helpful. Or so as an example, right? Somebody who's been a medical assistant in the front office, that's helpful for understanding the flow and the administrative parts of medicine that would be counted under healthcare experience. Then, when programs have a certain minimum number of hours for personal care experience, which is really the medical hours, a better example of that would be back medical office experience, right? So that's a medical assistant who is taking the patient into the room, working with them in the patient room with vitals. Maybe they're involved with taking part of their history. Perhaps they're called back in to help with a procedure. They're also helpfully when a patient is getting discharged, providing them additional instructions. So that is a difference between where someone would list experience. It's still experience, helps us if that can be clearly delineated between the healthcare experience and the medically oriented hands-on experience with the
Yeah.
patient. We do look at both, that it's important to know that when looking at the specific parameters a program has is really vital. The deeper an applicant can dig into what's important for a program, the
Yeah.
better. It means that applicant is able to customize their approach. We recognize when somebody has taken the time to customize their approach in their application. That's how we think about the fit.
And that leads me to my next question is how can students feel like they are making a good list of programs? When you look at program websites, things start to run together. And it's been interesting talking to students. Sometimes they don't necessarily understand parts of the program website, things like curriculum. From an accreditation standpoint, there's a standard of curriculum that has to be taught. But I've had students who email me and say, I want to go to this program because they teach ophthalmology, but this other program doesn't. And I'm like, hold on. No, they definitely will teach you ophthalmology. It just may not be listed. That's a core part of it. You're going to get that. So how can students, when they're trying to figure out if it's a good fit, what questions should they be asking or what kind of stuff would they be looking for? Maybe the mission statement and things to feel like it's a good fit. Can't go visit or go to an info session.
Sure. To your first point, that you're doing an excellent job clarifying this for pre-applicants, which is that when you look at the curriculum, the curriculum can be very different. And that's because for our accredited programs here in the US, that our accrediting agency, ARCPA, requires certain standards for all the programs. How they're interpreted is up to the program. But RP is very clear and says that because we specifically list, for example, that you must cover anatomy, and physiology, genetics, you don't necessarily have to have a specific class for each of these specific requirements. Some of those will be folded into a class. You won't know exactly from the title itself what's being covered or what's going to be covered. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Looking more at the regulation of programs in general and all of our requirements is were helpful. Or yes, so that's important to be reassured about. And they did that so that there is that flexibility of interpretation. It also means that programs, because of that, have a wider variety of approaches. Honestly, that's better for the students to be able to choose from. And so, for example, in our program, that means we've had the latitude to arrange for ultrasound teaching, as an example. We've partnered with our local medical schools to do that, obviously. And we also partner with our College of Nursing here at California Baptist University to facilitate some learning activities, and also we've had simulations. So that is, but we have that flexibility because of the way the accreditation set up.
And is there anything about your program that you feel is unique or something that students may not know or realize is something beneficial? I think ultrasound training has become such a big thing over the past few years. And that's something that is very beneficial to the students. We have 1 day of ultrasound and now it's being incorporated a lot more. It sounds like y'all have a really good like interprofessional approach at your programs. Is there anything that you feel like students would want to know or that your students get really excited about that somebody looking to apply may not realize just looking at the website?
So we find that students often report that the professors truly care about the students. But of course, that's for the applicant to interpret for themselves. We aim to include either students or alumni in our interview day so that applicants have a chance to chat completely as they wish and no questions off limits to find out what is it really like to be a student in our program. We think that's really beneficial. We know you can have lots of printed material to have access to, but someone who's in the program, who's been in the program, can probably give you the best picture. And that would be for any program, really. So that would also help decide what's important for you as an applicant. Is it really crucial that it be somewhere geographically close by? I think being geographically flexible can open up a lot of doors, especially since the average applicant applies to, I think it's 7 or 8 programs typically. So thinking about how flexible could you be geographically is important as one idea.
We have lots of people who want to apply in California. That's that
Yes,
is
yes.
a
I will
popular
say
state.
yeah, yeah, it's
Education.
true, but California has many different aspects to it, and so I think that, again, diving into research into what's really drawing you to a specific locale. We're in Riverside, the only physician assistant program in the county of Riverside. Our region, defined as Riverside and San Bernardino, is a medically underserved area. In the current 2 cohorts, we have 4 students, current students who are NHSC winners,
Wow,
National Scholar, either
awesome.
having applied before they came to the program or when they came to the program,
Mhm.
they found out about that fellow students were applying and then they applied, embarking on a loan repayment program. It's congruent with the fact that we are in a medically underserved area if they're willing to continue to serve after they graduate in a medically underserved area. So we're
Yeah.
very excited about that. It shows alignment with the students that are coming into the program with being committed to serve in the area as well.
No.
We also are a yellow ribbon university, which means that there's some special benefits for veterans. The first physician assistants were military corpsmen, and really without them, we would not have the profession. And we have won the last 4 of the 6 California Academy of Physician Assistant Medical Challenge Bowls. That's been exciting for us given that
Yeah,
our program opened in 2016.
taken over.
Fantastic for us.
Students may not know about or may need to research more, and we'll add some resources because there are a lot of programs that say they have a focus or would like to emphasize underserved areas or veterans. It's cool to actually talk to someone who's saying, yes, we actually do it, to have those NHSC scholars and be in an area where you can really serve your community.
That's very exciting for us. There really is a need. There's a need for more PAs, no question, anywhere, but in our geographic area, that's particularly true. And so it also means that the students, when they're going on their clerkships, they're also in areas that are truly in need. And
Yeah.
so it's providing a vital resource early on.
Yeah, and that is a great experience for the students as well. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I know this will be extremely helpful to all of our pre PA students and PA students who are thinking about what they may want to do next or any interest in academics to think about where their path may take them. So thank you so much for taking the time to share with us.
You're
And we'll
welcome. I wanted to express my gratitude that you are continuing what you're doing because it's very important for people who are applying to PA school to really have a definitive understand that this is the best path for them. We always say take the time that you need to explore. If you've been a PTA, consider looking at PTs. If
I
you've been an ophthalmology technician, consider looking at ophthalmology. And then if you decide that's not for you, it gives you more information actually
right.
about the path that you do choose. And ultimately, because we are vital members of a team, there's another benefit because you've also learned all the more about additional roles, right? If you've been a pharmacy tech, then you're working with pharmacists and you understand the role of a pharmacist. And whether or not you become a pharmacist or PA, you understand more about the team concepts. And in the end, that's a win win for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's one of the huge benefits of our profession and the education is just all those different backgrounds and experiences coming together to help all of us feel more well-rounded.
And thank you also, Savannah, for the encouragement that you've provided to reapplicants as well. That's really important. People should take that to heart. They have a time to expand their experiences, perhaps, or broaden them, and to not stay